Welcome back again. In today's class, we will learn what are frames in HTML, and then we will also demonstrate how to use frames inside our HTML pages. Okay, so in HTML, these frames they are basically used to divide our browsers into rows and columns, and then in those different rows and columns, we can display different HTML pages what we want it to display. For example, let us see. So this is a frame. Out here we have two rows and then one, two, three columns. So depending on your requirements, we can divide our browsers into several rows and columns, and then in each of the cells, different HTML pages or different pages can be displayed. So the advantage of using a frame in HTML is that it is able to display multiple pages at the same time without needing to link different pages. So I repeat again, the advantage of using a frame is that it have the capability to display multiple pages at the same time without needing to reload or refresh or without using any uh, links. Okay, so now we will look on to how to create a frames in HTML. So the important thing while creating a frame is that we must always create our frames inside our heading tag. So when you try to create a frames, try to create inside heading tag. Okay, so to get started, first of all, let us try to divide our browsers into two or three columns. After that, let us try to display some HTML pages which we have created in our previous classes. Okay, so to start off, inside the heading tag, we have to write frame set. So frame set means it is a collection of rows and columns. Frame set means it is a collection of rows and columns. So when we try to create any frames, it should start with a frame set tag. After that, suppose if you want to divide your browsers into columns, we have to write columns. Or else if you want to divide your browsers into rows, we have to write rows. Okay, so we will look on both of these two different examples, and then after that we will try to create both rows and then columns. So let's divide it into columns. Is equal to, after that, inside double quotation we have to specify how many rows or how many columns we need. Right now we have written columns, so it will divide our browsers into several columns depending on the number of sections we have divided here. So for example, if you want to divide your browsers into two equal columns, we have to give 50% comma 50%. So your browser will be divided equally into two different columns. But now for example, if instead of using this percentage, we can do it star comma star. So if we give star also, it will divide our browsers into two equal columns, or else like comma star. If we give star again, it will divide it into three equal parts. Again, let's like 20%. If we do it like this, the first frame will occupy 20% and the remaining two parts it will take 40% each, 40% each. So like 20, 40, 40. So it will becomes 100%. So it goes on like that. So it depends how much or how big you want you divide your frames. We can specify here. You can use star here if you do not want to give a specific size, but if you want to use a specific size, you can go along like this, like 50%. If I give 50%, it's already 70% now. The first column will take 20%, second will take 50, and then the remaining 30% it will take by the last cells, or else you can just simply do it like this also. So it depends, you can use stars, or if you want to have a specific frame size for a particular frame, you can mention that value. Okay, now for now let us divide it into two equal parts. Alright, so that is how to divide your frames. Now after that we have to link an HTML page, a page that should be displayed in these two frames. Okay, now we have to write frame source. frame frame source is equal to, after that we have to give an HTML page which we want to see it. After that, frame set, not frame set, frame source is equal to, okay, after that let's close our frame set. So out here I have given two frame source because I have divided my columns into two frames. If you divide it into three frames, there should be three frame source. Okay, so do not forget that one. So since I have divided into two frames, I have given two frame source. Now let us try to link two different pages which should be displayed inside our frame. So let's minimize it. Let's go to our folder. After that, let's say I want to display my, let's say, list. After that, image. So image.html, list.html, let us use inside our frame. So image.html, so this image.html should be displayed inside our first frame. After that, list.html inside our second frame. Okay, now let's save this one. File, save as. So I will save it inside my HTML5. After that, I will give frames, frames.html. Okay, now let's view it inside our browsers. So now we have divided our browsers into two different frames, and then the first frame it have an image.html, and then the second frame it have a list.html. So that is how we can divide our browser. So you can divide it into multiple sections also. Now instead of these columns, let us try to use view it in rows. So instead of columns, if you want to divide your browsers into rows, you can do it like this. So let's save it. After that, let's go back and then refresh it. So it is divided into two different rows, and then they have an equal size. We can somehow we can check and drop path. We can adjust the size from here also, but by default while refreshing it should be divided into two equal parts, since we have given it to divide it into two parts. Okay, now that is how we can divide it either into rows or a column. So in our upcoming next class, we will try to divide our frames into using both rows and columns and a single page. So that's all. Thank you so much, and then I'll see you in next class.